South Carolina in the country who understands politics, was a protege and worked for the likes of Strom Thurmond and many others. On the line with us right now. He's on the hotline. He's about to walk into the presidential debate because the doors close at what time, Tony?
7:15.
7:15 p.m. Speak up for us, brother. So, Tony, what is the atmosphere in South Carolina tonight?
I tell you, Armstrong, good to be with you. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, we hear you well. Go ahead.
I've been a part of the exciting presidential primary here going back to the Reagan days and 30 years of us picking presidents, and this is exciting a build-up as I think I've ever felt. South Carolina Republicans are paying very close attention. They very much care about this vote. They understand there's a lot at stake for the country. They want to nominate a conservative, but they want somebody who can win, and that is where the battle is being fought. Gingrich clearly picked up some momentum Monday night from the debate. You can definitely feel that Newt has picked some support up. I think it's going to be close. A week ago, I think everybody would have felt like it was Romney's to lose. I think now, Newt is clearly has picked up some momentum. So, but it could very well be a close race.
How much will the interview with his first wife the night on Nightline, how much will that impact him?
I don't know that it's going to impact it that much. And the reason I say that is I think voters have an antenna for these kind of last minute. The timing is suspect. I think there's also a lot of TV ads being run and direct mail and phone calls. So I don't know that news is going to be able to punch through all the other noise that's out there right now. So, if it had been a week ago, that might be a little different. But I think the timing is suspect. If that's going to be a factor, it may very well be a factor in Florida and beyond after Newt has had a chance to answer it, or when he's got to deal with it, and maybe it bubbles back up. But I don't know that it'll be a big factor between now and Saturday.
Do you think so? You're not optimistic that he can pull this out?
No, I think that he has a good chance of winning the South Carolina primary. Rick Perry dropping out is probably a plus for Newt. Perry's vote was about 5%, so it's not hugely significant, but it's a plus. Some of that vote's going to go to Santorum, though. I don't think Newt's going to get 100% of what Perry had.
We're live, Armstrong Williams. You can join us on our live stream in our chat room by going to www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. So you're in Charleston, South Carolina.
That's correct.
And that's where the debate is taking place.
That's correct.
What is it that Gingrich and Romney can do tonight to put distance between everyone else?
Well, I think that's happening to some extent because I think, Republican voters don't want to throw their vote away. So I'm not suggesting that Santorum is a throwaway vote. He's clearly a solid guy with good credentials. But as we get closer, I think people are going to want to feel like they want their vote to matter. So, obviously debates are his strength. He's good at it. It's what's really put him in the driver's seat in South Carolina with his performance Monday night. So, I feel like, Romney's held his own in all these debates too. So, those are probably the two best debaters on the stage. But with one more guy dropping out, the smaller the field on stage, the more opportunity for heated exchanges and these things. There's more pressure now that the field is narrowing. So that's what South Carolina is about.
Why would Rick Perry not endorse Newt Gingrich when it's clear that the momentum is Romney's advantage?
Armstrong, I don't know the internal dynamics there. I know the folks on the ground. Today, Bobby Harrell, the Speaker of the House, endorsed Newt Gingrich. So Newt has picked up a significant number of endorsements from the Rick Perry camp. So I don't know if that surprises you, but that does appear to be the case. I mean, South Carolina is a conservative state, and I think a lot of people kind of want to be with somebody they perceive as maybe the most conservative.
Well, Tony, we know you have a few minutes before you go into the live debate. We're going to have you back with us tomorrow night to give us an update about the atmosphere, what we may have lost by watching it on television, and just give us an update about whether there's been a surge, who won the debate, what were the key points. But we thank you for taking the time from your schedule as you wait outside the auditorium to go inside the debate, and we look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.
Armstrong, I'm honored. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. That's Tony Denny.
Thank you, sir.
All right. That was Tony Denny, who joined us live. Coming up is Horace Cooper. Horace Cooper is an adjunct professor. He was one of the top guys to former Majority Leader Dick Armey. He's here to talk about NTSB. It's a conversation you don't want to miss. Horace, we just finished listening to Tony Denny, who's in Charleston, South Carolina, preparing for the presidential debate tonight. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me on tonight.
Well, it is our pleasure. Have you been following the GOP presidential race?
Oh, of course I have. I'm sure most Americans are as well.
Do you think that Gingrich has any kind of chance of overtaking Romney and win this nomination?
Well, just probably right shortly after the debate earlier this week, I joined with a number of people, commentators, who watched Newt Gingrich's performance and said, this is the kind of thing that could lead to him overtaking Romney. I had an opportunity to speak with pollster Scott Rasmussen, and he told me his poll numbers lit up from that day forward, and that they see a surge. If people have access to the Drudge Report, they'll see that there are at least two polls showing Newt Gingrich ahead of Mitt Romney. So I actually would probably be in the category of not as big a win as could have happened before the ABC News stories, but I would still predict a first-place victory by Newt Gingrich.
How important and significant is a victory for Newt Gingrich in the conservative state of South Carolina, which has always selected the GOP eventual winner, and going into Florida? And how much of an issue in terms of a recovery that it will create for Mitt Romney, that he's had the symbolic appeal and the posture of a front runner, invincible, but all of a sudden someone like a Newt Gingrich that he declared who had so much baggage, and the tables have turned. How significant is it for both, Gingrich winning, Romney losing?
Well, let's take a look at Romney first. Part of the expectations game was completely misset for him in South Carolina. His people should have been talking about a good, strong second or third place finish. But the problem for them has been that most pundits are aware that the Republicans have always picked the South Carolina victor as their nominee since 1980. And they felt a lot of pressure to say they were going to win, therefore. But just because it's the past doesn't mean that's always the future. Here's what we now know. Now that Iowa has done their recount, we appear to have a situation where Romney, instead of having won a caucus and a primary, is now 1-0, and potentially after the primaries could be 1-2. That stops looking like you're a front runner at that particular point. So that's a bit of a challenge for him to have to face. On the other hand, because of Newt's, I would call it pre-peak in Iowa, and then poor showing there, and not so good a showing in New Hampshire, only a win in South Carolina really keeps his campaign viable. So this is really, really critical. I would suggest that the news story with his ex-wife is probably designed to have some impact on minimizing his ability to carry as big a victory as he can.
What about the news that broke today? Now, we'd heard about this weeks ago. In fact, we reported it on many of our media platforms. The story that Rick Santorum actually won Iowa and not Mitt Romney.
Well, the history of the Iowa caucuses, at least in the last couple of years, has been that there's always a final canvass, and when that final canvass is done, the numbers have to be retallied and reported. Typically, the first place winner wins by such a margin that even a 200 or 300 vote reallocation doesn't change anything. In this particular case, with them being separated by as little as 8 or as much as 15, depending on which count you want to use, separate votes, it was pretty obvious that there was a high risk that a recount was going to have this effect, and that's what appears to have occurred. That is a huge setback for Mitt Romney. Again, it turns from a...
Horace, hold that. We're going to take a break and come back. You're listening to us on WTNT 730 AM, WGNU 920 AM, WGCV 620 AM, Sirius 128. I'm Armstrong Williams. We'll be back. Armstrong.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
Hello, my name is Ron Moulton. I'm running as a Republican for the City Council in the nation's capital, a political arena dominated by the Democratic Party. I'm seeking office in Ward 7, overwhelmed by unemployment and poverty. For the first time in decades, we have an opportunity to be elected as the people that need the representation the most are now responding to the principles that will uplift them. For more information about my values and to donate, please visit www.ronmoulton.com.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. Horace Cooper is our guest. Horace, you were talking about the Iowa caucus and the fact that they are now saying that the true winner was, in fact, Rick Santorum and not Mitt Romney, and the impact it is having.
Yeah, so what that has meant is it has turned Mitt Romney's campaign from a front runner who is sort of coasted through 2 elections and about to coast through the third with a sense of inevitability to a campaign that's really in a position no longer of relative strength, but one of somewhat moderate to weak position. You would have 3 different winners, Santorum, Romney, and Gingrich, if 3 different winners in those 3 different states ultimately bear out. That is not the position that the Romney people in their campaign want to be in.
You know, I just want to share this story for our WGNU 920 AM audience. We've learned that the former head of the East St. Louis Police Department, was arraigned in federal court this morning. Michael Baxton Sr. stepped down as police chief on yesterday, citing personal reasons at the time. He was arraigned and pleaded guilty to felony charges of stealing evidence and making false statements to federal investigators. Braxton, 49, posted bond later in the day and is awaiting sentencing set for April 27. Any other insights on the political news, Horace, before you tell them this horrifying story of what NTSB and the insurance companies are trying to do to those that drive vehicles and how it can impact you if you're not aware?
Two other takeaways I think your listeners should get. One is it is a very obvious effort on the media, on the mainstream media in America, to try to influence the outcome of this election. There are two scurrilous stories that are being presented. One is about Mrs. Santorum's prior relationships before she ever married Senator Rick Santorum 30 years ago, and the other is ABC News' 11:30 p.m. showing tonight of the former wife of Newt Gingrich and the difficulties of people who've ever experienced a divorce understand. However, it is the media's view that this kind of information ought to be highlighted and presented as if that kind of gossip, if that kind of old news is so crucial. And yet, in 2008, what we saw was that the media went on strike, if you will, on the whole question of what kinds of responsibilities did they have to give information to the public about one Barack Obama. He was allowed to present himself with a complete clean slate and all questions about his past. We heard Mitt Romney being asked about his income taxes. Many people wonder, why didn't he say, I'll release my income taxes if Barack Obama will release his grades? These are the kinds of things where the media has refused to give attention and coverage on one side of the aisle, and yet you see on the other. So that's one takeaway. Second takeaway is we lost another candidate. That was Rick Perry, just announced he was leaving the race today, and he has endorsed Newt Gingrich. So it will depend really on what people see when they are paying attention in South Carolina as residents, what they're going to pay attention to. If they're paying attention to what someone like Newt Gingrich and Rick Perry are saying, I think you're going to see this race really change up pretty rapidly. If they pay attention to what the mainstream media is trying to do, then this race may turn out to be not so dramatic, maybe not even as exciting, but can lead to the selection of one Mitt Romney. Those are two takeaways that I think are important. And I didn't know if you were going to talk about the Keystone Pipeline tonight or not.
Yes, we have to mention Horace Cooper was a key aide to staffer to former Majority Leader Dick Armey, and now he is an adjunct professor. He joins us live. This is Armstrong Williams. The pipeline, I just thought the president it was such a coward and just showed no leadership in that, and understanding how this economy is suffering. He's going to try to again malign the GOP as the reason why they were pushing him towards a deadline, and because he didn't like the deadline, he decided to halt the entire project. I mean, come on, Mr. President.
Well, it's worse than that, and all of that's true. Solyndra, the failed government funding of this green company, was decided in less than 60 days. He came into office, and in less than 60 days after the Bush administration had recommended a no support for Solyndra, they were able to find time to reverse it. But I think here's what's a lot more telling. This is a sign that Mr. Obama is trying to consolidate his base. If you're the incumbent president of the United States and you've governed for 4 years, and heading into the election cycle, you're starting to consolidate your base, that's a sign that you're in a lot of trouble. I would tell your listeners, keep their eye out on the signs of what's really going on here. Pundits are going to say to you in the mainstream media, this is going to be a close race. I predict this is not going to be a close race. This is going to look a lot more like either the Dukakis-Bush race of 1988, or could be even worse than that, the Reagan-Carter race of 1980. The American public is very fed up. When you talk about the Keystone Pipeline, all business, one of the first things that one of the very first things that they notice is that the price of gasoline is double at the pump what it was when he was first nominated, when he was first inaugurated.
Horace Cooper's our guest. You know, you can join the conversation in our chat room and register your questions and comments, and we can dialogue by going to www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. That's www.livestream.com/Armstrong Williams. Horace, before we get to the NTSB and the cell phones, what is going to happen with the deficit, the budget, and what do you think are going to be the key issues in this election year for our legislative Congress?
Well, if people thought that there's been a lot of conflict, a lot of friction over the debt ceiling, over last year's budget fight back in April and May, you ain't seen nothing yet, to quote Ronald Reagan. This is going to be a tough sledding year. The closer we get to Election Day, the harder and more rigid people's positions are going to be. I predict that we are going to go as close as possible to a shutdown, if not for a day, at least 4 times we're going to see periods where we announce to the federal workers that they may not be allowed to come in and that we may not be providing services. We are having a very, very difficult problem with how we reconcile the differences between where the Congress is and in particular House Republicans and where this president is. And there's going to be a lot of pressure as we head into this election cycle for people to say, I didn't capitulate, I didn't give in, I didn't compromise. Now, there are a lot of pundits that say what the American people want is, quote, for them to do the people's business. The question is, what is the people's business? One side wants to spend more, wants to borrow more, wants to regulate more. Another side wants to spend less, wants to borrow less, and wants to regulate less. They both say we're doing the people's business. When they get close to this election, it's going to matter how you are seen. There are 12 Senate Democrats who are up for election this cycle among the 18 who are, but there are 12 of them that are vulnerable, that are concerned. They worry that the voters are going to see that they're too tied to this administration, and that is going to lead to a great degree of gridlock. So I would tell your listeners, don't be surprised. Be ready to ride this out. There are going to be serious conflicts this cycle.
Wow. But you make an interesting prediction. You don't think there's any chance that Obama can win?
Oh, I think this race is over.
Oh, you think it's over?
I'm going to tell you why this race is over. There are almost 2 million more people unemployed than when he started, than the net number of people that held jobs. The price of gasoline. The average price of a home in America was $168,000. The average price now is $145,000. There are more people who find themselves having their homes foreclosed upon or just sitting underwater in their prospects. Students are graduating and finding that they're taking jobs at a income 25 to 30% less than what people were just 4 or 5 years ago. Median income has dropped by almost 20%. There are substantial consequences. And so what people have to say to themselves is, I would like to have more of this, or I want to try something new. And the problem that the incumbent has is it's going to be really, really hard to say something new is different and therefore scary when what people feel like is a very, very miserable experience. We are looking at a closet inflation rate and a closet interest rate. They are artificially held low, but because credit scores are cascading downward, it is the equivalent of a 24-25% interest rate. People who normally would be able to make their bills, normally would be able to access capital, find that in this particular environment they don't have the ability to, and even if the rate is only 6%, they can't get it. when they go and see a house that's being foreclosed and they apply to buy it, they find that they're not eligible. There are real serious consequences, and with the mismanagement that has occurred. And that's not about whether you're for Mr. Obama or whether you're against Mr. Obama. He, like every president, has to answer the question, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And it's going to be really hard to find a large enough people who are prepared to say that. Now, my next observation is this. There was a coalition of people who supported this president when he ran, and they had high hopes and high expectations. Among those were liberals, and they'll likely vote for him again. Among those are students who are finding that the unemployment numbers don't count for people who didn't have a job. So you can't get a job. We are not even counting the fact that you
Horace, hold that point. Hold that point. When we come back, we're going to talk about NTSB with Horace Cooper and LaToya Foster. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive.
So we have 3 hours of show to send up for the Law 9. Yeah. Is which car still on the phone? Yeah, he's going back.
What's good, honey?
Thank you.
Nah.
Now, your crew's going to be here on time, right?
Yeah.
Because I want to get out of here.
It's one of those days.
It's a long day, but I'm fresh for some reason.
That's good. That's your second win.
I'm fresh.
That's your second win kicking in.
Well, I was hyped up.
That's good. What we talking about?
You'll hear it. You will listen to the conversation, and then you chime in on it.
Okay. That works. Good old Nudie Newt.
Book Reawakening Virtues gives his insights into these daily challenges and much more. Reawakening Virtues is available in bookstores and at Amazon.com.
Mic check 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Ladies and gentlemen, the story that we're about to share with you and what the National Transportation Board is doing is just unbelievable. You know, Horace Cooper shared his insights as on the political spectrum and the landscape. But Horace, tell us how this came about, the implications, and how we should not be deceived or misled, or what the true intentions are behind this.
Well, the NTSB last month announced with a lot of fanfare that they were going to recommend that every single state in America ban the use of cell phones in any kind of way, talking, texting, Bluetooth, any kinds of utilization of a cell phone in a vehicle or while the vehicle's engine was running. This was greeted initially as a recognition of the serious problems and threats that we Americans face on the highway. But we at the National Center decided to take a look at this and determine what the real consequences would be if individuals found themselves in a country where every single ability to use a cell phone once you start your engine was made either illegal or, as the Department of Transportation has indicated in a rulemaking proposal, they would like to require that any cars sold in the United States, once you start the engine, you can't use your cell phone. And that means you, your passengers, any friends that you travel with, none of them would have any access to being able to use the cell phone. We recognize that as dramatically overbroad, dramatically overreaching, and likely to have unintended consequences that anyone ought to be able to look forward at, just project a little bit and see those consequences.
Now, LaToya, just tell them again about what they would receive in the mail if this became the law.
So here are a couple things that's going to happen to people if this actually passed. First is that your insurance company is now authorized to issue a re-rate request. It is now the Federal National Transportation Safety Board's official determination that it is per se dangerous to use your cell phone. You haven't gotten in any more wrecks. You haven't had any more speeding tickets. You're not driving any more miles than you were yesterday. Now they can send you a letter and say to you, "Dear sir, do you have a cell phone? If you have a cell phone, do you use it while you're driving?" If you answer yes to those questions, then they would have the right to issue you a new rider saying that risk that imposes could be valued at a $250 to $300 increase to your insurance. If you say no and you subsequently get into an accident, they would have the ability to say to you, we're sending you this new rider, and it says you promise that you're not going to use your vehicle and if your cell phone while you're in your vehicle, and if you do, we will limit your recovery from our insurance policy as a result. So that's a problem on the one side from the insurance company. On the other side, you have all of these local and state governments that find that they're experiencing budgetary shortfalls. This is a great way for them to respond to that by coming up with this tax, but not calling it a tax and calling it safety and protecting you. So you take a state like California, and they claim that it's only $25 for a first-time offense if you're using a cell phone or any kind of distracted driving. But when you look at the details, you see something far more dramatic. First of all, there's a $100 court fee. There's a $125 fee for that the state of California assessed. That's a budgetary impact fee to offset some of the budget shortfalls that the state has experienced. You're already now over $200 for a first-time distracted driver or use of your cell phone fee. That's today under those rules. Where is that going to be headed tomorrow? Now, most of the instances where people are getting ticketed for using their cell phone happens when they're stopped at a stop sign or a stoplight. Here's what perversely they're going to make people do. Since it's hard to see if I'm texting or calling on my phone while I'm driving, I'll do it while I'm driving instead of while I'm stopped. The worst thing government can do in a situation like this with a tough economy is raise your insurance rates, come up with these unfair tax increases that pretend that they're for safety, and then encourage you to do the very dangerous thing that they say they don't want you to do.
LaToya, when you sit and listen to this, are you not stunned?
I'm stunned, but on the flip side, I look at it and say, did we not bring this on ourselves? You know, when you're driving in, let's take morning rush hour in Washington, D.C., traffic is the worst than in any other city in the country currently, over Chicago, over Los Angeles, over New York. When you look to the left or the right of you, what do you see? People on their cell phones, whether they're driving or at the stop sign, they're on their cell phones. So I look at it and it's stunning, but I have to ask, did we not bring this on ourselves?
But look, this is an issue of distraction. Mm-hmm. People are distracted by many things. People are distracted, listen to the radio. Mm-hmm. There are some women I've seen breastfeed in the middle of the highway, put on makeup. I mean, and in fact, if you listen to the National Transportation Safety Board statistics, you have lower fatalities on the highway than you've had in the last several years. Horace?
Yeah, you know, the NTSB points out that among the risks out there are people changing their contact lenses. Come on now, how can you tell me that what we're going to do is ban the
So the cell phone is just another distraction.
We got people
cell phone.
But are you willing for the insurance companies to exploit you? Because that's what it's about.
I don't know if I look at that as exploitation. I think I look at it as we've kind of brought that situation on ourselves. When I look and see people always looking down, it's like constantly we have to be connected at all times. We've got to see the latest post on Facebook. We've got to post about what we see on the street on Twitter, whatever it is. Guess what I just saw crossing the highway? A dog. Da-da-da-da-da. Just dumb things that take our minds off of our safety.
Let me mention one other issue. One of the things that we have to live with is the real world. And in the real world, there are law enforcement people that have to enforce this. If we pass a statewide all across the nation rule, you can't be on your cell phone. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to trust that every single law enforcement officer is only going to pull people over that he genuinely believes he sees misusing their cell phone. You're in your car and you're singing along. Is that talking on your cell phone or is that singing? Well, the officer said it was talking on the cell phone. You were listening to the Armstrong Williams show, and you got really animated, you raised your hands, and you started saying something into the car, and it's just you. Well, the officer said, looked like talking on the cell phone.
But that's
you
far different than being on your cell phone.
Or a day at least, so you can go in and explain it to a judge, and guess what? What happens if this is an excuse to pull every minority over, every person who's driving a car, quote, that looks too nice, that looks too expensive for them to be able to afford, to pull them over and say, I thought you were on your cell phone.
Well, let me be quite frank. If they want to pull you over, they're going to pull you over anyway. And I'll give you an example. Recently, I drove down to Atlanta. I'm on 85 South with my family. And guess what? We got pulled over for no specific reason other than just being African American, and they just came over and said, well,
so why say let's do more of that? I don't get that. It would
at least it would have been good to have said, I saw you on your cell phone. At least you would have had an excuse to have pulled me over. What's that?
Were you given a ticket?
No, what they did was, I'll tell you what happened. My stepfather was actually driving. He has an amputated leg. They told him to get out of the vehicle, to limp over with his crutches, get in the car with the police officer, while another one came up and interrogated everyone else in the car. Myself, my mother, and my mother's brother. We all had to hand over our IDs. We all had to be questioned and interrogated.
Here's what I just heard. I know the law enforcement community doesn't enforce traffic rules appropriately and fairly. So now I want to give them even more ability and more discretion. You know what they can do now? If you pass this rule and you have the temerity to speak back, they'll issue you a cell phone ticket. And you come to court and you say, I don't even have a cell phone. Well, the judge will say, oh, really? Well, the officer said you did.
I truly think that's apples and oranges. There's a big difference between the distraction of when you're on your cell phone, texting and posting on Facebook and tweeting and so forth, versus the original example that you gave. If you got really emotional about while you were listening to Armstrong's show and you had something that you wanted to say and you threw your hands up, or we all know what it's like when you're in the car and a song you haven't heard in years, your favorite song, comes on the radio and you get to sing it along like you're on stage and you get into it. It's a big, big difference. That's not a distraction, but a distraction is when you're constantly looking down every time that phone goes beep.
You're missing the point. It's not about whether it's distracted or not. It's whether the officer sees that and uses that as the reason to pull you over.
But the thing is, they can pull you over anyway. Just like I gave you an example, the cop pulled us over for no reason.
What was the outcome of your situation?
What's that?
What was the outcome of your situation?
Sorry for the distraction. Have a good day.
Okay.
That's
what
all
you are now saying is
in
you
South
want
Carolina,
more of that.
right before we got to the Georgia border, south of the border,
yeah.
We're standing there, we're on, and then after we got past, just a little bit down the highway, you saw where he had another African American family pulled over on the side of the road.
So you think it's racial profiling?
Oh, it was definitely racial profiling. There was no other reason to pull us over.
So you want more of it. You want more of it.
My point is, if they want to pull you over, they're going to pull you anyway. They're going to do it anyway.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
They do it anyway.
What you do when people are abusing authority is you restrict it. You limit it. You narrow their discretion. You don't say to them, oh, well, you've shown such a good job of abusing black folk. Here, I'm going to give you another reason to come in there.
Hold that point. Hold that point. We're coming back. Horace Cooper, LaToya Foster. We'll be back.
For more information on the Armstrong Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Does your school, team, church, or charity need a new fundraiser? Do you need to work out of your home or part-time? Are you a small business that can use an additional revenue stream? Then you need Yellow Llama. Do you need affordable web services or tools to enhance your existing business? Are you a graphic artist who wants to create a revenue stream with your art but not get ripped off? Then go to www.yellowllama.com.
Anderson Brothers Bank, a family-owned and operated establishment that blends traditional personal service, local market awareness, and advanced technology to meet the financial needs of its customers. Visit abbank.com or call 843-464-6271 to see how they can assist you with your banking needs. Anderson Brothers Bank, celebrating 75 years of community banking, the way it should be. Stability right in your backyard since 1933.
And he came to with it. I said, yeah. I did it because I can't.
Most Americans simply have never been taught the basics of money management, let alone how to secure their financial future. But there is hope. Financial Education and Literacy Advisors, also known as FELA, does what others don't. FELA teaches financial education. If you'd like more information about providing a financial wellness program for your employees, or a credit-bearing college course in personal finance, or other valuable programs, please visit myfela.com. That's myfela.com, or send an email to info@myfela.com.
Elder Chicks is an exciting part of the fastest growing segment of the population. Women in their 70s, 80s, and older who are mastering the art of a senior life. We're no longer unseen and unheard. We're providing role models for each other and the baby boomers who are fast approaching retirement. Join our virtual community. Hit www.elderchicks.com on your computer keyboard.
That's crazy. You know, we're about to get out of here. I feel fresh.
Where heads of state, sports, entertainment, and political celebrities meet. You're listening to Armstrong Williams.
Horace Cooper, former staff, top staff assistant to Majority Leader Dick Armey, now an adjunct professor. LaToya Foster, TV personality, radio personality. You know, Horace, when you listen to LaToya's argument, I mean, it's just very interesting because she represents a mindset and a mentality where basically what she's saying is, I don't have a problem regulating cell phone use, abandon it totally, because I see people texting, I see people emailing, and to me it's the most dangerous, they're the most dangerous person on the highway. But yet you're trying to convey something else. It doesn't seem as though that she's really, your point is registering with her. So what do you say to people like Toya and others in the world who really feels that the NTSB is right in what they're trying to move forward with?
Well, part of this comes from the premise that a lot of, and I talked to the chairman of the NTSB directly, it's premised on the basis that there is no legitimate phone use. Every time we see illegitimate phone use, we somehow conclude there must not be any legitimate phone use. We set, Texas A&M University ranks traffic places all across the nation, and when I moved in the 90s to the Washington, D.C. area, we were number 6, and we have moved all the way to the number 1 most congested traffic environment in the country. We sit on the highway because the traffic planners haven't compensated with the proper plan necessary, and therefore, we are stuck with having to do some multitasking. We're going to spend 100 hours in a 6-month period, almost 200 hours in a year, trying to just travel from our job and back. If we can't use our cell phones during those periods of time, then we are missing out on substantial opportunities, things like wanting to make sure that someone is there to pick up Johnny from school because I'm running late because I stayed at work. Someone has to run by the drugstore and pick up the medicines because we ran out and we need to get grandma's medicines prescriptions refilled. We use the phone. It is quite ubiquitous. Yes, she's right. You see it all over the place. It it is one of the most dynamic and innovative creations of the 20th century. And there are now more cell phone owners, or cell phones in operation than there are American citizens in the United States. The idea that problem is going to go away, and that need is going to go away because there's some people who are abusing it, that doesn't reflect reality.
What did we do before the cell phone? When we knew Mama needed her meds, Day-Day needed his Pampers. What did we do before then?
Yeah, you're not going to put that genie back in the bottle. That's the point.
We lived life and we made it work before the cell phone ever came into play. Now, I will say that it makes it easier, but my point is that the use of it is oftentimes abused. We're on phones oftentimes when we don't have to be. You don't have to text the whole time you're driving. You don't have to email the whole time you're driving. You don't have to tweet. You don't have to post on Facebook. There's a time and place for that. When you're in a safe position and you say, oh my God, I've got to call my husband and tell them I forgot my keys and to meet me at such and such place. Things happen, but we're talking about just sitting there the whole time you're driving, rush hour commute, easily an hour and a half every day, one way. Okay,
yeah.
but you don't have to do that the entire duration of your ride, and that's what people are doing.
Good luck with trying to say somebody's going to sit in the car for 90 minutes, and they're not going to communicate.
But you used to do it.
Catch up with mother. You know what they also used to do? They also used to spank the kids in the back seat. They also used to put the lipstick on. They also used to change the contact lenses. They also used to change the radio. There's a whole bunch of things that we've been doing that was distracted driving since the car was invented.
Think about when you're sitting there trying to dial a number on your phone. So you're trying to operate with one hand. You're trying to operate a steering wheel while you have your phone in the other hand and you're looking down.
How long has the cigarette been around? The cigarette sits in one hand, and the steering wheel sits in the other hand.
Apples and oranges. How quickly can you light a cigarette versus you're typing a post?
The whole idea that we've never had a situation where people have been distracted while they're driving, that just is not the case. And the numbers, which is the most important thing, it is bogus to argue that we're dying more, we're having more accidents. We're having fewer accidents than any time since they kept the records. This is a safety period, and now we're going to, in the middle of this safety period, suddenly look around and say, oh, I guess we solved traffic safety. What new things can we come up with? Well, let's jack up everybody's insurance. Let's make sure that they have to pay these new hikes. And if the police aren't pulling up enough, brothers, let's give them open season to pull up some more.
They've been pulling us over anyway. I just gave an example. Even when we were on break, Horace,
I was telling Armstrong, if they're not pulling over enough, let's give them some more.
Wanted to hit on me. Police pull you over simply because they want to, not because you're on your phone or doing anything out of the way. And maybe I take the stance because I am a former Department of Transportation
employee. It is remarkable that
so maybe I do go along with NTSB because I gave U.S. Department of Transportation many years. But I do see where they're coming from.
It is remarkable that it is her view that we can't stop the police. They're going to do what they're going to do. But on the other hand, we can stop the people from using the cell phones. That, to me, is amazing. 350 million cell phones in operation. We can stop that. But the law enforcement people that abuse minorities, that's just going to happen. We can't stop that.
What do you say to those parents that lost a child in an accident because the person was tweeting, texting, and posting on Facebook when they didn't have to? You could have waited 10 minutes. 10
what do you
minutes
say
to
to
get
the
to
people
a
that have
location
the same accident when they're smoking a cigarette? What do you say when you have the same accident when you're trying to figure out your navigation? What do you say when you're trying to change the stereo? Accidents happen, but the point is the accidents are at the lowest level that they have been. This is the observation that we need to understand and internalize. There is no good reason to hike people's insurance rates. There's no good reason to make them pay extra fines. How about let's start with a dialogue. Encourage people. Hey, be safer, be smarter, use good judgment. Why would we want to start with a situation that we know can't work? If you can't stop law enforcement from abusing minorities, how are you going to put the 350 million cell phones in circulation in the United States back in the genie and say those can't be used while you're in the car?
That's just like saying don't distribute condoms or teach sex education in schools or promote abstinence because people are going to have sex. Kids are going to have sex. It's the same premise.
No. You're the one that said you can't stop the law enforcement community. I believe you can. I believe you do so by restricting their discretion. I believe you do so by limiting the flexibility. You put cameras on the dashboard. There are lots of things that you can do so that instead of making poor black people and other people have to show up at the judge
Why is
and
this just
explain,
a racial issue?
you
I
can
hear
get
you say
them
a
to
lot
get
of
their act
pulling
together.
over the brothers
They're paid
and black
by
people.
us.
Why is
We're
this
the taxpayers here.
Why is this racial?
You said it. I
Is this
didn't.
racial?
You said it. All I'm
didn't say
saying
it. I
is
gave you an example of
give,
when they want to pull you over, they can. But is this a racial issue?
You're making it one by giving them more excuses for people to do it. And many of the listeners on this program know that this is the kind of abuse that happens, and why should they be in favor of letting there be more of it?
I'd be curious to hear what the public
What
has to say.
what are the practical solutions to this?
I think one idea is that we have a conversation where we talk about the need for people to be careful. We talk about the need for people to be considerate. The whole idea of starting with a government ban when we could have a conversation, say one adult to another, hey, you know what you're doing is a little bit risky. What you're doing is a lot risky. What you're doing is smart. Let's emulate that. The whole idea that we're ticketing people while they're stopped at the stop sign, that's a ridiculous thing that we ought to stop. It encourages the exact wrong behavior. But we are tempted quite often when government offers up solutions that they're going to solve problems, and we don't look and see the agenda. The insurance companies are loving this, even though you're not getting any more speeding tickets, you're not having any more accidents, your driving record hasn't changed, they get to charge you more. If you get into a wreck, they now get to claim that they don't have to cover it all because you lied and said you don't have a cell phone. The cell phone might not have had anything to do with the accident, but they could still try to invoke that clause.
LaToya,
this is not a good solution.
LaToya, what is the compromise?
You know, I really have to think about that, Armstrong, because honestly,
I don't agree with the NTSB. I just don't. I don't.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I am all for not texting and not being on the phone while you're driving.
Well, I don't think you should text and be on the phone while you drive. But I don't think the insurance companies can say to me, well, you're in an accident. Well, did you have the cell phone in the car? Yes. Did you have it on? I say no. And they still, because they don't want to pay me, use that as another excuse.
Well, I agree with that.
To prolong the process, to prove their point that I could have been on my car and pulling my phone records. And see, it doesn't tell whether you're on the Bluetooth when you're on the cell phone. It just say you're on the cell phone.
Right.
See, I have a problem with that. I don't trust the government.
I can agree with that part.
That's my issue.
I don't have a problem with that.
You know, it's what these insurance companies have already done. Mm-hmm. It's hard enough for them to pay people. To give these people another excuse? Oh, I'm sorry. I don't want to add to the a la carte. I'm sorry. But I will tell you this. This is a very important discussion. It's something for people to think about. It has serious implications. And I know that I was where you were once with people driving and texting. It's a frightening experience for you. And you're behind somebody and they're barely moving and the light is green and you're trying to figure out why they're moving slow. It's because they're looking down at their phone. Horace Cooper, LaToya Foster, thank you so much for both of you joining us. God bless.
Thank you for having me on the podcast.
That's it for the Armstrong. Take care, everybody.
For more information on the Armstrong-Williams Show, please visit our new website at www.rightsidewire.com. There you can find his syndicated column archive, view live streams, and get your favorite conservative pundits' views on the current issues affecting the American people. From building wealth to foreign policy, stay connected with Armstrong Williams and his colleagues at the all-new www.rightsidewire.com.
Are they here, LaToya?
I'm not sure. They probably are. Let's see.
You see how she came in and lit up the room?
It was excellent. Did you want to do another segment with her to add?
No, we're good.
Okay, we're good. All right. So we did good tonight.
Yeah, she's on 2, right? Yeah, she's on 2 segments.
Hey, you called me?
2 before it. And then we have the two before
Okay.
that can go $1, so I can probably edit.
Oh, yeah, you got something to use.
Both those for St. Louis for tomorrow. Like,
What
once
you
again,
do, you see,
my recommendation once again
it's what
is to
the
not,
Onyx
since
is
this
Capital
not go
something,
test tomorrow morning
Capital Office
with
Suites, Capitol Hill Office Suites.
TNT, then we test with WGNU.
You see that? Come
make
up
sure everything's
to
And
that
don't go
building
live?
right
We go
there
fresh
and
Monday.
hit
We got some
It is
good shows, and we at least
*1.
got 2 shows.
Yeah.
And we have some
It'll
more
show the
Coach
code
Mark.
for the
We have
Graham
some
Williams
shows in
group.
one.
Okay.
Because I don't know.
Bye.
I
Get it
specifically
downstairs.
talked to Joe at 4 o'clock.
Joe, who?
4:30.
It's okay. It's okay. They didn't know. We're here, and it's Anthony. You gonna turn it off?
Yeah. No problem, no problem. So at least I can. You gotta turn in the TV, Toya, now?